In this video, we will be discussing the basics of research. Research is a systematic and scientific inquiry that seeks to discover new knowledge or validate existing knowledge through a structured process of collecting and analyzing data. It is used in various fields, such as science, medicine, social sciences, business, and education, among others. Now, let's go for a detailed explanation of the research. Number 1. Research question or hypothesis. Research starts with a research question or hypothesis that the researcher wants to test or explore. Number 2. Literature review. A literature review is conducted to gather knowledge and background on the topic. This involves reviewing previous studies, theories, and other relevant information. Number 3. Designing the study. The researcher then designs the study to test the research question or hypothesis. This involves selecting a sample, choosing data collection methods, and determining the variables to measure. Number 4. Data collection. Data is then collected from the selected sample using the chosen data collection method. This can include surveys, experiments, observations, or secondary data sources. Number 5. Data analysis. Once the data is collected, it is analyzed to test the research question or hypothesis. This involves statistical analysis, qualitative analysis, or other data analysis methods. Number 6. Results. The results of the analysis are then presented in a research report or publication. This includes a discussion of the implications of the results and their significance. Coming to the conclusion. Finally, the researcher draws conclusions based on the results of the study and discusses the limitations of the study and areas for future research. Now, let's discuss different types of research methods. There are different types of research methods that researchers use to conduct their studies. These include: Number 1. Quantitative research. This involves collecting numerical data and analyzing it using statistical methods. Number 2. Qualitative research. This involves collecting non-numerical data such as observations or interviews and analyzing it using thematic analysis or other qualitative methods. Number 3. Mixed methods research. This involves combining quantitative and qualitative research methods in a single study. Number 4. Action research. This involves conducting research to solve practical problems in a real-world setting. Research is an important tool for advancing knowledge and improving our understanding of the world. It allows us to make evidence-based decisions, develop new theories, and improve existing practices. Now, coming to quantitative research. Quantitative research is a research method that focuses on collecting and analyzing numerical data to test hypotheses, make predictions, and answer research questions. It is a systematic approach to scientific inquiry that uses statistical analysis to draw conclusions from the data. Here is a more detailed explanation of quantitative research. Research question or hypothesis. Quantitative research starts with a research question or hypothesis that the researcher wants to test. Designing the study. The researcher then designs the study to test the research question or hypothesis. This involves selecting a sample, choosing data collection methods, and determining the variables to measure. Data collection. Data is then collected from the selected sample using the chosen data collection method. This can include surveys, experiments, observations, or secondary data sources. Data analysis. Once the data is collected, it is analyzed using statistical methods to test the research question or hypothesis. This involves descriptive statistics to summarize the data and inferential statistics to determine if the data supports or rejects the hypothesis. Results. The results of the analysis are then presented in a research report or publication. This includes a discussion of the implications of the results and their significance. Finally, the researcher draws conclusions based on the results of the study and discusses the limitations of the study and areas for future research. Now, let's go for different types of research. Quantitative research can be conducted using different types of research designs, such as experimental design, survey research, quasi-experimental design, and correlational research. Each design has its own strengths and weaknesses, and the choice of design depends on the research question and the nature of the variables being studied. The main advantage of quantitative research is that it allows for precise measurement and statistical analysis, which can provide insights into cause and effect relationships. It also allows for the replication of studies, which can increase the reliability and validity of the findings. However, quantitative research can be limited by the complexity of the research question, the availability of data, and the cost and time involved in collecting and analyzing data. Overall, quantitative research is a powerful tool for testing hypotheses and making predictions in various fields, such as psychology, sociology, education, and business. Further, qualitative research is a research method that focuses on understanding the subjective experiences, meanings, and perspectives of individuals or groups. It involves collecting and analyzing non-numerical data, such as interviews, observations, and text, to generate in-depth insights into a research question. Here is a more detailed explanation of qualitative research. Research question or hypothesis. Qualitative research starts with a research question or hypothesis that the researcher wants to explore in depth. Designing the study. The researcher then designs the study to explore the research question in depth. This involves selecting a sample, choosing data collection methods, and determining the themes or patterns to investigate. Data collection. Data is then collected from the selected sample using the chosen data collection method. This can include interviews, focus groups, observations, or textual analysis. Data analysis. Once the data is collected, it is analyzed using qualitative methods such as thematic analysis, content analysis, or discourse analysis. This involves identifying themes or patterns in the data and interpreting their meanings. Results. The results of the analysis are then presented in a research report or publication. This includes a discussion of the implications of the results and their significance. Finally, the researcher draws conclusions based on the results of the study and discusses the limitations of the study and areas for future research. Qualitative research can be conducted using different types of research designs, such as ethnography, case study, grounded theory, and phenomenology. Each design has its own strengths and weaknesses, and the choice of design depends on the research question and the nature of the phenomena being studied. The main advantage of qualitative research is that it allows for a deep understanding of the subjective experiences and meanings of individuals or groups. It can also provide insights into complex phenomena that cannot be captured by quantitative methods alone. However, qualitative research can be limited by the subjectivity of the researcher, the small sample sizes, and the difficulty in generalizing the findings to other contexts. Overall, qualitative research is a powerful tool for exploring complex phenomena and generating in-depth insights into the subjective experiences of individuals or groups in various fields, such as psychology, sociology, anthropology, and education. Mixed methods research is a research approach that combines both quantitative and qualitative research methods in a single study. To provide a more comprehensive understanding of a research question or phenomenon, it involves collecting and analyzing both numerical and non-numerical data to provide a completer and more nuanced picture of the topic under investigation. Here is a more detailed explanation of mixed methods research. Research question or hypothesis. Mixed methods research starts with a research question or hypothesis that the researcher wants to explore in depth. Designing the study. The researcher then designs the study to incorporate both quantitative and qualitative research methods. This involves selecting a sample, choosing data collection methods, and determining the variables to measure and the themes or patterns to investigate. Data collection. Data is then collected from the selected sample using a combination of quantitative and qualitative data collection methods. This can include surveys, experiments, interviews, focus groups, observations, or textual analysis. Data analysis. Once the data is collected, it is analyzed using both quantitative and qualitative methods to provide a more comprehensive understanding of the research question or phenomenon. This involves using statistical analysis to test hypotheses and identify patterns in the quantitative data, as well as thematic analysis, content analysis, or discourse analysis to interpret the qualitative data. Results. The results of the analysis are then presented in a research report or publication. This includes a discussion of the implications of the results and their significance. Finally, the researcher draws conclusions based on the results of the study and discusses the limitations of the study and areas for future research. Mixed methods research can be conducted using different types of research designs, such as sequential, concurrent, or transformative designs. Each design has its own strengths and weaknesses, and the choice of design depends on the research question and the nature of the phenomena being studied. The main advantage of mixed methods research is that it allows for a more comprehensive understanding of a research question or phenomenon by incorporating both quantitative and qualitative data. It can also provide insights into the complexity of the phenomena under investigation and can help validate the findings of the study. However, mixed methods research can be challenging to design, implement, and analyze, and requires expertise in both quantitative and qualitative research methods. Overall, mixed methods research is a powerful tool for exploring complex phenomena and generating in-depth insights that can inform theory, practice, and policy in various fields, such as health sciences, education, social sciences, and management. Coming to empirical research. Empirical research is a type of research that is based on observations, experiments, or data. It is a systematic and objective approach to scientific inquiry that aims to test theories, hypotheses, or research questions using empirical evidence. Here is a more detailed explanation of empirical research. Research question or hypothesis. Empirical research starts with a research question or hypothesis that the researcher wants to test. Literature review. A literature review is conducted to gather knowledge and background on the topic. Designing the study. The researcher then designs the study to test the research question or hypothesis. This involves selecting a sample, choosing data collection methods, and determining the variables to measure. Data collection. Data is then collected from the selected sample using the chosen data collection method. This can include surveys, experiments, observations, or secondary data sources. Data analysis. Once the data is collected, it is analyzed to test the research question or hypothesis. This involves statistical analysis to determine if the data supports or rejects the hypothesis. Results. The results of the analysis are then presented in a research report or publication. This includes a discussion of the implications of the results and their significance. Finally, the researcher draws conclusions based on the results of the study and discusses the limitations of the study and areas for future research. Empirical research can be conducted using both quantitative and qualitative methods. Quantitative research involves collecting numerical data and analyzing it using statistical methods. Qualitative research involves collecting non-numerical data such as observations or interviews and analyzing it using thematic analysis or other qualitative methods. Overall, empirical research is a rigorous and systematic approach to scientific inquiry that uses data to test hypotheses and theories. It is an important tool in many fields, including psychology, sociology, economics, and medicine. Scope of research. The scope of the research refers to the boundaries of the study, including its objectives, research questions, methods, and limitations. It provides a clear description of what the research will and will not cover, and helps to ensure that the study is focused and feasible. Here is a step-by-step guide on how to write the scope of the research. Start with the research topic. Begin by stating the research topic and providing a brief overview of its background and significance. This helps to provide context for the scope of the research. Define the research objectives. Clearly define the research objectives or the specific goals that the study aims to achieve. These objectives should be clear, concise, and measurable, and should guide the research process from beginning to end. Formulate the research questions. Formulate the research questions or the specific questions that the study seeks to answer. These questions should be based on the research objectives and should be focused and specific. Identify the research methods. Describe the research methods that will be used to address the research questions and achieve the research objectives. These methods may include data collection methods, such as surveys, interviews, or experiments, as well as data analysis methods. Specify the research limitations. Acknowledge any limitations or constraints that may affect the scope of the research. These limitations may include factors such as time constraints, budget constraints, or limitations related to the research methods or sample size. Provide a summary. Provide a summary of the scope of the research, including the research objectives, research questions, methods, and limitations. This summary should be clear, concise, and focused on the main points of the research. When writing the scope of the research, it is important to be clear and specific, and to ensure that the scope is feasible and achievable within the given resources and constraints. The scope should also be consistent with the research topic and should address the specific research questions and objectives. Lastly, make sure to review and revise the scope of the research as needed throughout the research process to ensure that it remains focused and relevant. Further, limitations of research. Limitations of research refer to the factors or constraints that affect the scope, design, implementation, analysis, and interpretation of the research study. These limitations can impact the validity, reliability, generalizability, and applicability of the research findings. Here are some common limitations of research. Sample size. The size of the sample used in a research study can affect the accuracy and generalizability of the findings. A small sample size may not be representative of the population being studied, while a large sample size may be too costly or time-consuming. Sampling bias. The way in which participants are selected for a research study can introduce bias and limit the generalizability of the findings. For example, if participants are self-selected, the sample may not be representative of the population being studied. Research design. The research design used in a study can limit the types of questions that can be asked and the conclusions that can be drawn. For example, a cross-sectional study design may not be able to establish causality. Data collection methods. The methods used to collect data can introduce bias and limit the validity and reliability of the findings. For example, self-reported data may be subject to social desirability bias. Data analysis methods. The methods used to analyze data can affect the accuracy and validity of the findings. For example, using inappropriate statistical tests can lead to erroneous conclusions. Time and resource constraints. Time and resource constraints can limit the scope and depth of a research study. For example, a study may not be able to collect data from a large enough sample size or may not be able to conduct follow-up interviews or observations. Ethical considerations. Ethical considerations such as privacy, confidentiality, and informed consent can limit the types of data that can be collected and the methods used to collect it. It is important to acknowledge and address limitations in a research study in order to increase the transparency and credibility of the research findings. This can be done by discussing the limitations in the research paper or report and suggesting ways in which future studies can address these limitations. Ideal way to write conclusion. The conclusion is an essential part of any research paper, dissertation, or academic essay. It provides the final thoughts and insights on the topic and summarizes the main findings and arguments presented in the paper. Here is a step-by-step guide on how to write a conclusion. Restate the research question or thesis statement. Begin the conclusion by restating the research question or thesis statement in a clear and concise manner. This helps to remind the reader of the main focus of the paper and provides a sense of closure. Summarize the main findings. Summarize the main findings and results presented in the paper. This can be done by briefly highlighting the key points from each section or chapter of the paper. Interpret the findings. Interpret the findings and results in light of the research question or thesis statement. This involves providing insights into the meaning and significance of the findings and their implications for the field of study. Discuss the limitations. Acknowledge any limitations or shortcomings of the study. This can include limitations related to the research design, sample size, data collection methods, or any other factors that may have affected the validity or generalizability of the findings. Provide recommendations for future research. Provide recommendations for future research based on the findings of the study. This can include suggestions for further investigations or areas of research that could build on the current study. End with a final thought. End the conclusion with a final thought that summarizes the overall message of the paper. This can be a reflection on the significance of the findings, a call to action for future research, or a broader implication of the research for the field of study. When writing a conclusion, it is important to keep it concise and focused on the main points of the paper. Avoid introducing any new information or arguments, as the conclusion should only summarize and interpret the findings presented in the paper. Lastly, make sure to proofread and edit the conclusion carefully to ensure that it is clear, concise, and free of errors. We hope we have helped you to know all the general basics about the research. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.